Hey guys, it's Core Ross and World 6 News. Today I have all the information on the new Defender Fenria, as I've been able to play this operator for a couple of days before reveal. So let's go and break down this new Defender. And we'll start with Loadout. So the loadout for me is actually a little bit on the simple side when it comes to weapons. You've either got the MP7 or the SASG-12 shotgun, and then you've got the Bailiff as the secondary. And he's a 2-speed, 2-health operator, with secondary gadget options being either barbed wire or a bulletproof camera. And his primary weapons are only equipped with 1x sights. Now let's move on to his main gadget. So he has 5 of these throwable gadgets that he can put out that are proximity based. They're about the same size as a motion sensor as well in the game, and he can put out 5 of them in total. However, they are completely inert, they need to be activated by Fenria. We'll get into that shortly. But what happens when he deploys them is on his HUD, he can see where they are located through walls and surfaces, but also on the left hand side of his HUD, it will show the location of each device, and if they're activated, then they'll light up. So this is actually really cool. It might be useful as a new player who just doesn't know callouts for your friends, because you can just see the name of where it is when it's activated, and you can call that out to your teammates immediately, which is actually sweet. I really like that. However, let's talk about the activation. So he's able to activate 3 of these gadgets at a time. So he actually has to look at them, and then he sends an activation code through the wall or whatever to get to it, and it'll activate. And he has infinite range on this, so you can do it from anywhere on the map. And when Fenrir activates them, they open up and go into their vulnerable state. This means they can be shot very easily, but they are now proximity based, so when an attacker gets close enough to them, they will open up and start to affect them with the fear-based gas. And then when he wants to potentially switch one off and then switch another one on somewhere else, so you can only have 3 total activated at a time. So if he wants, he can switch off 1 or 2 or 3 and switch on other ones. And he also has a limited amount that he can switch on and off these gadgets, so that's also something to pay attention to. But I think the basic idea here is that his gadgets are available right away. So he's kind of the opposite of Wamai. He actually goes and throws out all his gadgets to where he thinks he's going to need them, and he can spread them out. And then as the attackers actually attack, he can switch on the ones he believes the attackers are going to be walking past, and they will switch on and affect the attackers. And that leads us into what this actually does to the attackers. So it pumps out a kind of toxic gas that does no damage, and it doesn't actually block your view or anything like that. But if you're in the gas, you get this kind of fear factor going on where you cannot see. And it's not as if you're standing in smoke. If someone actually runs up to you, you will see them. But after a certain range, you can't see anything at all. It's basically like if you imagine Sen's laser walls, but as a sphere around the operator, and then that operator cannot see out of that laser wall, but someone on the other side, a defender far away, can easily see them and shoot them. But saying that, if a defender is in the range of the gas, they'll also be affected by it as well. It also kicks in pretty much straight away. There's not really a delay, but there is a few counters and stuff which we'll go over. But Fenrir here should be a very powerful operator, but also a very hard operator to play. There's going to be a lot of multitasking, and you're going to have to work with your teammates to make sure this gadget's actually useful. So let's start talking about counters. So first of all, the gadget is in its inert state, which means nothing happens if an attacker runs past it, and it is bulletproof and can only be destroyed by explosives. However, once it's been activated, it is completely vulnerable and can just be simply shot and destroyed. This means placement is going to be super important. You're going to need to get in a placement where the attacker will be easily hit by its effects, but also not visible to be easily destroyed before you actually have the opportunity. Another thing is, once the attackers are in the range of this gadget and it's going off and it's releasing its smoke, the Fenrir cannot actually switch it off, which means that it'll probably then get destroyed, unless you or your team spring a trap and take out the attacker when they're in the smoke. And the best way to counter this is going to be to drone it out, shoot it with Twitch drones, EMP it, or take it over with Brava. So with Brava, there's actually quite a deep interaction. So if it's in its closed form, Brava can destroy it, which I actually don't agree with. I think Brava's drone shouldn't be able to do anything when it's in its inert form. But when it is in its active form and it's open, she can actually go up and hack it, and then it will affect defenders that get into range and not the attackers. And it should be noted that Fenrir himself is not affected by the gas, so if Brava was to take one over and then he came and stood in it, it would actually have 0 effect on him. Brava also does not get the cool little HUD elements that show where they're located and when they're going off. Another operator that can counter this gadget is Finka. She can actually do her Finka boost, and that pushes back the visibility so that she can see better, and that also works for her teammates as well. So she is a really good counter against this guy. And now let's talk synergies with operators. So first of all, this guy can pretty much be teamed up with anyone who has a nitro cell, because you put this thing down, you put it in a certain location, you know where it is. As soon as it goes red on your HUD, you tell your buddy to blow up the nitro cell, easy kill. So there's a lot of potential options for just simple traps here. And then you've also got being able to just team up with a whole bunch of different people like Banshees from Malusi and stuff like that. There's a lot of potential opportunities here. I could also see some very simple tactics with mirror windows that could also be set up here just to make the attackers pushing up to a mirror window even harder than it is now. But that leads us now into the conclusion for this operator. So first of all, the operator is definitely complex to play. You've got to multitask like crazy. Definitely best to have a teammate or two that are working with you, but he's going to be, I think, very powerful. Using this gadget wisely, and especially being able to place them all really well to begin with and then activate them when you need them is brilliant. Maybe keeping one on you for spare that you can throw out any time. I think it's just going to be a very flexible gadget, but multitasking, very important. You also need to be alive to use them very well as well. So if you get killed earlier on in the game, they're just not going to be as useful as if you're there alive, being able to switch them on and off when needed. I am also definitely not a fan of bulletproof gadgets, but at least in its off form, it's bulletproof and not when it's actually active. So it is quite easy to take out the active ones. And I think Brava actually being able to take out the inactive ones is bad, but I do like the fact you can hack the active ones. So that's going to be quite powerful to use. And as a Brava main, I definitely like that. And then going up against this gadget as an attacker, oh, it's tough. Like if you end up in that kind of bubble of blindness, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So it's not going to be a gadget that I'll enjoy going up against with an attacker. But I don't think it'll be any worse than going up against a Banshee player. And although you can definitely get synergy with those two operators playing together, I kind of feel like you only really need to bring one. Like bringing the Banshees is going to be a bit overkill and probably not the best kind of team up. But we'll see. And then let's talk about his loadout, which I just think is very boring. And even though the MP7 of course is an absolutely amazing gun, it's going to be great in this operator's hands and he's going to go around absolutely destroying people with it. I just think the overall layout in a whole is quite boring to look at, and it's not exactly bad or anything like that. Like the MP7, good. SAS 12 shotgun, that's all right. And we have the bailiff, that's pretty good. Would have loved a secondary option other than the bailiff though. And then 2 armor, 2 speed, not too fast. That's kind of normal. And then barbed wire and bulletproof camera, both of them being quite useful with his gadget. So relatively okay, but I just think it's a kind of boring loadout otherwise. But it is a good loadout. And overall, my feelings about this operator after using them is that they're going to be very powerful, very hard to get good at, and you're going to have to multitask a lot. They're going to take a lot of energy to actually use. But Fenrir here is going to just be a kick-ass operator and very, very deadly. That MP7 along with his gadget is just going to be absolute killer. And if you've got a coordinated team with this guy, they are going to be able to dominate. Or at least that's my prediction for this new guy when he comes out. But anyway, let me know what you think of Fenrir in the comments below.